The International Hexagon Challenge is the most ambitious challenge in Football Manager. The aim is to win the continental competition in 5 different confederations, as well as the World Cup. So today we're going to embark on the quest to become the greatest international manager of all time. However, we have to start this journey at the bottom, with the lowest ranked FIFA nation, San Marino. From these humble beginnings, we have to work our way up the ladder to a nation that could win us the World Cup. Because this San Marino team isn't capable of that. But if we can get good results against Moldova, Cyprus and Andorra in the UEFA Nations League, we might be able to move up to a better job. Our star player is 6'3" Nicola Nani, who plays for Serie B side Reggiana. If he scores goals, we will win games. Our second best player is the right back Filippo Fabri, who plays for Serie D side Olbia. The idea is we get the ball to Fabri, who is encouraged to dribble up the pitch and put in a floated cross onto Nani's head to score some goals. So I picked my first 23-man squad and prepared for our first 2 games. We start our journey in Cyprus, and we were on the back foot from the very first minutes. Our keeper Colombo made some big saves to keep the scores level, and then had an even bigger job when we gave up a penalty 9 minutes into the match. But Colombo dived the wrong way, and Cyprus take the lead. However, this San Marino team didn't lose hope. We got the ball into the centre circle, and with our wing-backs pushing forwards, we had 4 options. Mulleroni picked out Nani, who beat the defenders and the keeper to score a wonderful San Marino goal, getting us back on level terms. For around 3 minutes, as it was all too easy for Cyprus to beat our defence and take back a 2-1 lead. Then, just before half time, they were able to make it 3-1, scoring a goal that I'm hoping my tactic is going to get us to score in the very near future. Despite the scoreline, we still didn't give in. We put a header over the crossbar early in the second half and were denied by the keeper from a promising one-on-one opportunity. But importantly, we didn't let Cyprus have another clear-cut chance. We may have lost, but we didn't play badly. And anyway, I never thought we'd beat Cyprus. They're a pretty decent side. Moldova, on the other hand, just lost 3-2 at home against Andorra. This is the game that I think we can win. So as we welcome Moldova to San Marino, I was feeling confident. However, it was a cagey game of few chances, and 30 minutes in, it was Moldova who had the first clear-cut opportunity, as they pumped the ball forwards and eventually hit the post. Neither side were able to create much else, with only 3 shots in the first half total. So I took us out of our low block and decided to go on the front foot. This gave our centre mid, Lorenzo Cappuccioni, license to become prime Roberto Baggio, as he dribbled forwards and unleashed a pile driver that almost ripped the net away from the posts, giving us the lead. We then had a couple more decent chances that we just couldn't quite squeeze into the back of the net, as well as being saved by Colombo, who made some very important stops. Going for it clearly works though, because we emerge as 1-0 winners and take our first victory in the International Hexagon Challenge. Given the international calendar though, we now have another month to wait for our next game, which was well worth the wait when we drew 0-0 with Andorra and then lost 2-0 to Moldova, as they got revenge on us for the victory in the previous month. So with Cyprus now only needing 1 point to top the group, we're in a battle for second place. With Nani suspended, I tried a flat back 5 against Cyprus, which didn't work as we lost 3-0 on home soil. I guess that was to be expected. However, Andorra beat Moldova again, meaning we have to beat them to secure second place. We took the lead 23 minutes in, through backup right wing back Di Adario, who was replacing the suspended Fabri. But early in the second half, Andorra got themselves back on level terms from a corner. But Route 1 football saw us get back in front, as Nani rose highest to score. He then should have scored a second goal from a corner, but it goes down as an Andorra own goal, as we win 3-1 and overtake Andorra into second place on head-to-head record. So I have to say, I think our first stint here at San Marino has been very successful. The issue is, international jobs don't come around very often, so we can't really capitalise on how well we've done so far, and we might end up being stuck here for a while. So in the meantime, we need to prepare for the World Cup qualifiers, as we've been handed a very tough group. And by tough group, I mean, I don't think we're going to win a single game tough, rather than it being tough to qualify from. Obviously, Poland destroyed us 6-0 as we had a man sent off to fall to 10 men. And things weren't looking great when Finland took the lead in the first half, and then Rossi shoved over a Finnish player, allowing Timo Pukki to double their lead from the penalty spot. But we got ourselves back in the mix with a nice free kick routine, and then of course the big boy Nani leapt like a salmon to nod in an equaliser in the 94th minute. So that rounds off our first calendar year here at San Marino, and to be honest, I think we've done really well. Again, it's just a shame we can't jump ships because I've not seen another international job become available this entire time. So we carried on where we left off by losing 3-0 to Albania in the first international break of the 2025-26 season. But away at Finland, we did score a goal as Nikola Nani used his height and aerial ability to beat 2 defenders in the air. It's just a shame we also conceded 7 goals. We ended World Cup qualifying with 4 more defeats to finish rock bottom of our qualification group, exactly where we thought we would be. But there are other countries who have also not made the World Cup and as a result have sacked their managers. So I'm going to apply to the Turkey, Croatia, Austria and Honduras jobs. But I don't think we're going to get any of them if I'm honest with you. Sure enough, Turkey, Croatia and Austria all did get back to me with blunt messages saying I'm not the best person for the job. But Honduras, well, that was more promising. Now this really does just highlight how half-baked international management is currently in Football Manager. Literally 5 days after I applied, Honduras offered me the job. No interview process or anything like that. So of course I accepted and I am now the manager of Honduras. They just finished bottom of their group in North American World Cup qualifying. Their best player is RB Salzburg's Albert Ellis, and we need to make use of his 16 pace and acceleration. He's supported by Rigoberto Rivas on the left wing and Luis Palma, who I want to use as a shadow striker. Because to accommodate our best players, we're using this monstrosity. An asymmetric 4-3-3, which uses our best attacking talents essentially as 3 strikers. Also, Honduras don't really have very good defenders, so we are going for a philosophy of we're going to score 1 more goal than you. My first match in charge is a friendly away at French Guiana, a game we really should be winning. And sure enough, left-back Franklin Flores gave us the lead 20 minutes in when he was left unmarked on the edge of the penalty area. Albert Ellis then made it 2-0 when we tapped in a close-range effort, but our shaky defence was exposed when we conceded a goal an hour into the game. We tried to extend our lead back to 2 goals, but we either sent the ball wide of the mark or their keeper forced a great save onto the post. Eventually though, we were able to score a 3rd goal to put the game beyond all doubt and get off to winning ways with Honduras. The real test would be against Nicaragua in the next match. Right winger Chirinos was brought down in the penalty area, allowing Luis Palma to score from the spot. Anthony Garcia then made it 2-0 on the hour mark, and after the goalkeeper spilled a corner, we won the game 3-0 in a far more convincing display. But these wins don't really matter, they're just friendlies. We have to do this in a competitive match. Like in the CONCACAF Nations League, where we've been handed a very nice draw. The competition works in a very similar way to the UEFA Nations League, where there are different tiers for how good each nation is, with promotion and relegation. We're in the top tier, so if we finish in the top 2 spots, we go through to the knockout rounds, where we'll face one of either the United States, Canada, Mexico or Jamaica, who have automatically been given byes into the knockout rounds. If we win it all though, it won't count to our trophy haul, because we need to win the Gold Cup for the top continental trophy. Before we get there though, we have to observe the 2026 World Cup, where incredibly, England go on to win the World Cup by beating Germany in the final. I do like the idea of Thomas Tuchel winning the World Cup for England against Germany. That would be nice. In the aftermath, so many countries have sacked their managers and there are plenty of jobs available. But I think they're either all too good, like Nigeria, Japan or France, or not attractive enough for us, like Jamaica and Curacao. Over the summer period, I've tried to enjoy myself in Honduras by locking myself in a dark room to watch only murders in the building. Terrific TV show on Disney Plus, by the way. However, Disney Plus didn't seem to be working for me in Honduras. Luckily, I have a NordVPN subscription, which I use to mask my IP address and make the internet think I'm actually in the UK. Then when I reloaded the Disney Plus website, it worked perfectly, and I was able to get back to watching my show. So whilst that is a very useful feature of NordVPN, it's not the best feature. They actually have loads to keep you safe online. Threat Protection Pro checks all your downloads for malicious files to help prevent your computer getting a virus, as well as blocking websites that are malicious or used for scams. It also blocks over 15,000 trackers from my internet browsing in the last 30 days, which is wild. It also tracks my details to see if they ever come up for sale on the dark web. Often when a website is hacked, the bad guys try and sell our data on the internet to make some money. And literally just a few days ago, some of my data was made available there. So by being warned by NordVPN, it meant I've been able to change all of my details on the website to protect myself. You can get all of this protection for as little as £2.21 a month on a 2-year plan by scanning the QR code on screen or visiting nordvpn.com/TomFMVPN, linked in the description. Anyway, now I'm all caught up with Only Murders in the Building, it's time to leap into the 26-27 season and the CONCACAF Nations League. We kicked off against Martinique, and by the hour mark, we were 6-0 up. However, in the final 30 minutes, we did concede 3 goals. So we won 6-3, which really does highlight our philosophy of we'll score 1 more goal than you. Or in this case, I suppose 3 more goals than you. It was a similar story against Curacao, as Albert Ellis scored a hat-trick to beat the Caribbean side 5-2 at home. We actually kept a clean sheet in Trinidad and Tobago, as we won 4-0 in our most convincing display so far. But then we lost 4-3 away from home at Curacao, who didn't have as many shots as us, but they just took the opportunities way better than we did. Anyway, it turns out the CONCACAF Nations League doesn't require you to play the other 5 teams home and away, because after just 4 games, 2 of which were against Curacao, we topped the group and progressed to the knockout rounds in November, where we've been drawn against Canada. At home, you could say we were fortunate. Canada took the lead through Liam Miller 20 minutes in. But shortly afterwards, we were able to score an equaliser against the run of play through shadow striker Lewis Palmer. But early in the second half, Canada's Simon Collin was given a straight red card for a late lunging challenge. And then moments later, they were reduced to 9 men when Samuel Piette was also sent off for a horror tackle. This allowed us to take control of the game and score twice in the second half to win the first leg 3-1. In Canada, we set up to defend, but we couldn't stop the Canadians from scoring a free kick. But we scored from a set piece of our own late on to draw the match 1-1 and progress to the semi-finals in March. Somehow we've avoided both the USA and Mexico to be drawn against Jamaica in a winnable game. This match is a one-off winner-takes-all event, so we're pretty fortunate it's being played in Honduras. Early on, we had a chance down the near side, with the ball being flashed into Ellis, but his effort ran across the face of goal and wide. So instead we tried from the far side, as Rivas beat his man on the dribble. He then found an open Arriaga, who powered his effort past Andre Blake in goal. We then had a few more chances that we didn't really look like scoring. And whenever we don't score, it gives Jamaica a chance to get an equaliser. But despite getting into good positions, they just can't get a shot on target. So we keep hold of the lead heading into the break. In the second half though, we started to mess up. A poor pass through midfield allowed Jamaica to get on the attack with Max Aarons, who was only denied by a super save and the woodwork. Then Leon Bailey's free kick was so close to finding the top corner, but eventually, the ball did find the back of the net. Dejed Spence got away from his marker on the near side, sent across to the far post where Leon Bailey's looping header just dribbled over the line with the help of the post. So we have to try and take the game to extra time, and our goalkeeper Lopez denied Leon Bailey of what would have been a certain winner in the 88th minute with a great save. But from the resulting corner, Kevin Lambert squeezed his header past the keeper to give Jamaica the win in the dying moments. It's frustrating to lose in the manner that we did, but I think we've done a great job. We got to play Mexico in the 3rd-4th place playoff, and as you would expect, the Mexicans spanked us. They were winning 4-0 before they made changes in the second half that allowed us to score a late consolation goal. So although we've come 4th in the Nations League, I don't think we're going to have enough time to turn that 4th place into a 1st place in the Gold Cup. Because this summer we get our first chance to compete for one of the 6 trophies that we need to win to complete the International Hexagon Challenge when we enter the Gold Cup, where we should qualify from our group. Martinique were easy to beat, with left winger Rivas and striker Ellis both getting on the score sheet in a 4-1 victory. Against Mexico, we took the lead 20 seconds into the game thanks to Chiros's powerful effort, only to concede 110 seconds later to an even more impressive goal. The game then turned into a back and forth, with Mexico scoring and then us scoring, and then Mexico scoring and then us scoring. Although I will say our goals were taking heavy deflections, so we were quite lucky to score them. And either way, Mexico did score a late winner to make it 4-3 on the night. This means we have to beat El Salvador to guarantee 2nd place in the group. So to win, we need to go to war. Or maybe that's not the message I should be sending to both sets of fans. They literally did go to war with each other in the aftermath of a World Cup qualifying match between the two countries in 1969. The game was turning into a real stalemate though, as neither side could create clear-cut opportunities. So we thought a draw was incoming, until the 80th minute when we nodded ourselves in front from a corner. And to make sure we won the game, we scored a second in the 91st minute to reach the quarterfinals, where we'll play against the United States of America. And although it took 44 minutes, the inevitable came to pass. The USA scored first. We had a moment of hope early in the second half when we did equalise, but the quality of the USA shone through as they shut the game down and scored twice more to win the game and knock us out. I have to keep reminding myself that Honduras is just a stepping stone, but I'm getting pretty attached to this team, and I was quite annoyed that we ended up losing. Especially because Canada went on to win the entire tournament and we beat them in the Nations League. Even more annoyingly, Mexico and the USA didn't sack their managers for not winning. And I don't think Costa Rica, Jamaica or Panama represent a step up or a greater shot of winning the Gold Cup. So our next chance to move countries is in 6 months' time after the Africa Cup of Nations. As we move into the 27-28 season, we're once again in the Nations League. We played out a 1-1 draw away at Costa Rica, with the goals being scored 78 seconds apart from each other early in the second half. Albert Ellis scored again in a 3-0 win over El Salvador, and then again against Martinique as we just escaped with a 1-0 victory. Ellis scored a brace against Costa Rica to take his tally to 5 goals in 4 Nations League games to see us once again reach the quarterfinals of the competition. Again, it looks like we're on the opposite side of the draw to the USA and Mexico, which I'm now thinking is a perk for if you top your group in the group stage. But we know Jamaica will be hard to beat. So when we won 1-0 at home thanks to Arriaga's goal, we knew we had to capitalise on the opportunity. But in Kingston, Jamaica were just too strong, scoring 4 times in a 4-2 victory to knock us out 4-3 on aggregate in what could be our last game in charge of Honduras. It's the last international break before the Africa Cup of Nations, and if some big teams get knocked out early, I want to capitalise by trying to get the new job there. Now, Mali went on to win the tournament, and big names like Cameroon and Morocco lost in the second round. As a result, both these jobs, along with South Africa and Ivory Coast, are available. Any 4 of those could be good enough to win AFCON. But seeing how we couldn't delay accepting or rejecting the Honduras job, I'm going to slowly apply for them in preference order, starting with Morocco, who said no to me. Next on my list of preference is Ivory Coast, and they came back and said yes, they want me as their manager. It turns out our exploits in Honduras, like beating Canada in the Nations League, were noticed by the Ivory Coast FA. They made me the manager and subscribed to the channel, just like you all should do right now. We're actually now in a job where we could conceivably win a continental competition. In fact, they made the semi-finals of the most recent AFCON. Datro Fofana, Amad Diallo, Simon Adingra, Brandon Soppy, Ousmane Diomande and Wilfred Singo all make the first team. with Karim Konate, Abakar Sylla and Tanguy Nianzou are all on the bench. This is a seriously good team of players in their prime. Our first match is a friendly away from home against Montenegro, and within the first 2 minutes of the game, we were causing them some issues. But I failed to realise how big the Montenegro backline was, as they repelled all of our crosses, meaning we had to shoot from distance instead, and missed the target. We had plenty of chances, but Montenegro's compact backline kept us from getting too close, meaning we head into the break goalless. And it was a similar story in the second half, as we just couldn't find the back of the net. But finally, Hamad Traore's corner found the noggin of Ibrahim Sangare, who gave us the lead and the victory. If we can keep attacking as well as we did against Montenegro, but just tidy up our finishing, I think we could be unstoppable. So as we head into the 28-29 season, we join World Cup qualifying, where we've already won 2 games prior to my arrival. Datro Fofana and Amad Diallo scored the goals in a 4-0 convincing win over Equatorial Guinea, before Adingra scored twice as we beat Niger 5-1 away from home to extend our lead at the top of the World Cup qualification group. Confusingly, at the same time as World Cup qualifying, we also have AFCON qualifying. So across the September and November international breaks, we play AFCON qualifiers. Then it's back to the World Cup in March. We finish off AFCON qualifying in June, before we play 4 more World Cup qualifiers in September and October. So if all goes to plan, we'll play AFCON in January 2030 and then take part in the World Cup later on in summer. Back to the present, and we kicked off AFCON qualification with a 4-1 win over Zambia, as 18-year-old regen Frank Karamoko scored his 3rd national team goal in his 3rd appearance. Datro Fofana, who is still trapped at Chelsea, scored twice in another 4-1 win, this time over Uganda. So far, so good. We then broke the AFCON qualifying record for the biggest ever win as we beat Central African Republic 10-1 away from home, with Ibrahim Sangare scoring 5 of the goals, or 27.7% of his total international goal tally. A slightly tamer 6-0 was the scoreline as we beat Uganda at home, with Datro Fofana scoring a brace. Then ahead of the March World Cup qualifiers, I convinced a 29-year-old Steven Sessegnon to declare for Ivory Coast. His brother Ryan, on the other hand, declined. So I rewarded Steven by starting him against Somalia, mostly to ensure he doesn't switch back to England. He didn't score or get an assist, but young centre mid Frank Karamoko scored a brace as we beat the Somalis 5-0 in Mogadishu, before centre-back Mohamed Diamande scored a hat-trick as we beat Cape Verde. Surprisingly, none of his goals were direct from a corner, but instead, actually really quite incredible. Then heading into our final AFCON qualification games in June 2029, we just beat Zambia 2-0 with goals from Datro Fofana and Ibrahim Sangare once again from a corner where he's been dominating. Then we beat Central African Republic as Adingra scored himself a hat-trick, meaning we top our group, winning every single game along the way. Although it was only ever going to be Zambia that could have caused us some issues. I was concerned when it said we hadn't qualified, but that's because we're hosting the tournament, so automatically qualify anyway. We then won our final 4 World Cup qualifiers to ensure we top the group and make it straight to the 2030 World Cup. In game, it's being held in Turkey rather than in Saudi Arabia, where it's going to be in real life. But this is where things get exciting, because in 6 months' time, we could be both AFCON and World Cup winners, or we could get knocked out AFCON early and get sacked. The AFCON group isn't easy, as we've been drawn against Tunisia, South Africa and Liberia. If we can beat Tunisia on the opening night, it should pave a way through the knockouts. It was Tunisia who had the early momentum in the match, only being denied a goal by the post. Moments later though, at the other end of the pitch, Karim Konate used his acceleration to get ahead of his marker and slot the ball into the back of the net. Frank Karamoko was then left totally unmarked by the Tunisian defence, and he punished them, waltzing into the area and scoring a wonderful goal. 30 minutes into the match, we were given a penalty, as a Tunisian shoved our man over and Adingra obliged from the spot. Then just before half-time, Amad Diallo's corner was cleared, but no one thought to watch him, as we recycled the ball back to him, giving him all the time in the world to score our 4th of the game. That did cause us to switch off slightly, because straight from the restart, Tunisia raced to the other end of the pitch, put a cross in the middle, and scored from a header. And then they made use of a great set-piece routine to reduce the deficit to just 2 goals. So with 6 goals in 45 minutes, we need to stay calm in the second half. So I got us to sit back more and rest up for what's hopefully going to be a very long tournament. And because we shut the game down, neither team really had any chances. So we see the game out as 4-2 winners and get 3 points on the board. The South Africa game was also looking easy, as we raced into a 3-0 lead. So once again, I told the boys to sit back and relax to conserve energy. As a result, South Africa did score a consolation goal, but a 3-1 win means we are already qualifying for the knockout round. Because of this, I rotated the entire team for the game against Liberia, and our backups won 6-1, meaning I can be confident that I can rely on them when needed. Heading into the second round, we've been drawn against Congo, and luckily they aren't that good. So with a mostly full-strength lineup, we battered them 7-0 to get to the business end of the tournament. In the quarterfinals, we're up against Morocco, and based on FIFA rankings, they are the second best team in Africa. Morocco's deep free kick was well defended, and it allowed us to race up to the other end of the pitch, building down the near side, but the eventual close-range shot was saved. 20 minutes in, we played the ball across the edge of the attacking third to Hamad Traore, who's replacing the injured Adingra. And he justified his selection with his powerful effort giving us the lead. We then tried something clever from a free kick, giving the ball to Diallo, who tried to dribble into the penalty area. However, despite it looking like a clean tackle, the referee gave us a penalty, which Datro Fofana went on to score. So at the break, we hold on to an important 2-0 lead, which we quickly made a 3-0 lead. Amad Diallo's free kick wasn't cleared very well, which allowed Soppy to turn, shoot, and see a massive deflection take his effort past the keeper. But we can't get complacent now, especially when Sila gave away a penalty just after the hour mark, which Morocco scored with a cheeky Panenka. So once again, I told the boys to sit back, take it easy, and waste as much time as possible to see the game out. And they obliged. We win the game 3-1 to make it to the semi-finals. Here we're taking on Ghana for a spot in the final where we could face Angola or Cameroon. However, Ghana are not just the highest ranked team in Africa, they're the 12th ranked team in the world. So this is going to be so difficult. But we are the host nation of AFCON, and we have a full stadium of our own fans who almost went wild when we just missed a chance early on. But from the resulting corner, Sila got on the end of it and headed us in front. We had a couple of other chances, but they were from distance and didn't really trouble the keeper. So we hold on to an important 1-0 lead at the break. We came out the blocks fast in the second half. Kouakou found a defence-splitting pass through to Adingra, who found an open Konate in the middle to double our lead. But again, we found ourselves getting complacent, as we gave the ball away in midfield and allowed Ghana to exploit us, with Mohamed Kudus scoring a screamer to reduce the deficit. And with just the 1-goal lead, rather than sit back, I wanted to trust the process, and I was rewarded when we scored from a free kick. So now we have a 2-goal lead again, now is the time to shut the game down. Although this time, we were able to score from a corner. As a result, Ghana completely fell apart, so we were able to score a 5th goal on the night to win the semi-final 5-1. We're now 90 minutes away from potentially winning the first piece of silverware in the International Hexagon Challenge. All we have to do is beat 5-time champions Cameroon, and we have to do it without Datro Fofana, who's been ruled out after an early injury in the semi-final. So we're starting Karim Konate, and we've seen him score plenty of goals. So can he do it again? Well, if he could, he was taking his time, as we didn't get a single highlight in the match until the 40th minute, as the ball was eventually threaded through to Konate, but his shot was tame and straight at the keeper. So at half time, despite being the team on top, the score is 0-0. So I thrashed my arms and told the boys I wasn't happy, which fired them up. We worked the ball down the near side of the pitch and then across to the far side, getting the ball into the middle of the penalty area where challengers were flying in. But somehow the ball fell to Ahmed Kouakou, who blasted his shot into the back of the net. Straight from the kickoff, we won the ball back from Cameroon and tried to go on the offensive. We got the ball to the feet of Amad Diallo, who was threatening to put in a cross. Dibango went in for a challenge, and the ref said he fouled Amad, awarding us a penalty. So up steps Adingra, but Onana made the save. With the clock ticking down, a 1-goal lead felt too risky to shut up shop. So I kept us in attack mode. But in the 89th minute, Cameroon were building. However, they gave the ball away and we had a chance to counter. Racing forwards, but our eventual shot could only find the post. Luckily, it didn't matter. Time ran out for Cameroon and the referee blew his whistle. We lift the Africa Cup of Nations to claim the first trophy we need to complete the International Hexagon Challenge. And with the World Cup coming up, maybe we could add a second trophy to our cabinet. But we're going to do that next time. We're turning this challenge into a mini-series. So subscribe to the channel to make sure you're the first to know when the next episode drops.